there isn't as much risk with this model when you know what you're doing. So if I say you don't pay me until you're top 3 in Google Maps rankings, that means I can get paid the moment that occurs. And if that takes 5 seconds for me, awesome. It just completely divorces my compensation from how much time I work and instead puts it on my ability to create an outcome, which is predicated on skills. So in a consumer example, you could say, hey, if you lose 20 pounds, I get paid more. You could say, hey, if you get ready bikini show by this time. It could be, hey, if we finish the project on this date, or if you get your ads run up, running and profitable by this time, for every amount over X. Agencies are classic with this, like X% of spend. You have consulting agreements that are percentage of profit or revenue. There's tons of different ways to structure these things, but all of them are, when this happens, I get paid. Now, I said I have 2 God tier or S tier versions of this, because you might be thinking, shoot, I work then you get paid. I understand why that's the lowest one here. It's super reliable, but I'm not going to get a lot of upside. You pay as we go. Okay, we're kind of in lockstep here. You pay then I work. Okay, I'm a little bit more leverage. When X happens, you pay me. Now, if there's a through line for this whole video, it's that you will be compensated in proportion to the risk you're willing to take. And the key is the perceived risk that you're willing to take on. Because the people who do this well have it be very risky for other people and not risky at all for them. And so the market overcompensates them because the market perceived this as very risky. This is fundamentally what investors call mispriced bets. And so if you buy distressed debt, it looks risky. But there are guys like Howard Marks who've made billions of dollars by buying what other people perceive as risky when it's not as risky as they perceive it. And so many of these things are distortions of reality for you when you're going through this, because you perceive, like I said earlier, that this is lowest risk. And it is true, but there are also risks that are not mentioned, which is the risk of not achieving what you want in life. And so I think that Peter Thiel said this best. He said, if Elon had even one of the companies he had be successful, we would have said that he was unbelievably lucky. He said, having 2 of them be successful, it doesn't even make sense. He said, and it makes you really wonder, what does he know about risk that we don't? And I really thought about that because, fundamentally, I was thinking, there are really smart people, they're really hardworking people. It almost never correlates with how much you get paid. But how much risk you take on certainly does. And in a deal, which all of these things are transactions, right? The thing that is always the overarching umbrella that you always have to come in with is who's got the risk. And the more you shift that risk in your favor, the more you get paid. And this also happens at the employee W-2 level. If you go in and say, hey, this job was advertised for $100,000. I'd be willing to do the work for 60 if you give me an upside of 180. They're like, huh. If these things occur, I would like to get paid more. So you can start shifting your terms and taking on some of the risk, which you can only do when you're good. So let's go to number 5. Number 5 is, drum roll please, what happens when all you do is buy and sell risk itself? So how does that actually happen in practice, right? Well, there's an entire industry, one of the oldest industries in all time, called insurance. And what's beautiful about this particular model is that when nothing happens, you still get paid. And once the nothing has happened, that is now profit. Every month that nothing happens, you still get paid. And there is no delivery besides the agreement that you take on the risk. And so what's interesting about this is that this insurance predates the tax code. Some of the oldest companies in the world are insurance companies. And I'll give you a little razor that I use when I think about building businesses, is I look at the companies that have been here the longest. And when you see a company that's been here 100+ years, that means that they've gone through World War I, World War II, advent of the microwave, advent of the television, advent of social media, computers, internet, and they've made it all the way through. That means that they have a way of taking on risk well and being compensated for it. And so no one is better at being compensated for risk than the people who buy and sell it. And so what's interesting about this particular thing is that insurance is a reverse lottery. Is that everyone is paying for a reverse ticket that if they get the bad thing to happen, everyone else chips in. Now, what could be above that, where you literally just get paid to take on risk? Well, all of these risks that we've talked about are almost entirely financial risk. But is there a risk that society values more than financial risk? The answer is yes and no. But the answer in terms of money is an absolutely yes, which is what body takes on physical risk? The government, because they have a monopoly over violence. We wouldn't be able to do any of these things